Okay, there we go. Hi, everyone. 5 p.m. on Tuesday, live at 5. Hope you guys are doing good. I know I'm doing well. I am thoroughly enjoying this cooler weather that we're having. I love it. It's not cold outside right now, but I am feeling enough to where I have a candle lit, and I only do that when it's like really cold outside. So feeling pretty good about that. Loving the colder weather. I'll give you guys just a few moments to hop on. I think someone just texted me asking if we were live. Yes, someone says class going on. Yes, I will send you the link. Oh, here we go. Okay. There we are. Got the chat pulled up. Hello, folks. Yes. Hey, Regina. How's it going? Okay. Cool. Well, we just have one right now, but I bet a few more will hop on. The only announcements I have for tonight, a lot of you guys already know, but now that it's October, it's already time to plan for the holidays around Immerse, which is really crazy. But for those of you that want to complete a Christmas list, you need to get with your coach about that. I know a lot of mine have come to me and have gotten theirs done. So just get with your coach if you want to do one. If you want to know how that works, basically we help you complete a list of the things that you'd like for Christmas. And then we have a church who very graciously has decided to take those lists from us and take them into the stores and purchase for you guys some of what's on the list, as long as it's about $100 or less. So it's pretty awesome and super fun. We have not set a date for the Christmas party yet, but we are definitely going to. We just are not sure when. And that is all I've got today. So we're going to be continuing on in our series about food and eating and how that impacts you in general. Last week, we had a great discussion on healthy ingredients and how to cook some certain staples that a lot of us have in our pantries and fridges. So I know this week is going to be just as good as it has been. So, Lindsay, I will hand it over to you.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Casey. I'm going to share my screen, and we are talking about cooking tips again. I shared some cooking tips with you last week. And so this is actually cooking tips 2.0 that we'll go over tonight. So yeah, these are some of tips that I have used, some tips from different, I don't know, blogs and websites, and just some like cooking tips from professionals that are good for every day. Okay, so first off, we're going to have a French lesson. Mise en place. Mise en place is everything in its place. That's what it means. Mise en place is everything in its place. So in cooking, this means that you pretty much, kind of like what this picture shows, is you put everything sort of in its place. It doesn't have to be in the order that you're going to add it, but more or less, you're just kind of prepping everything. And this is really useful because as you're cooking, especially with heat, your food's breaking down. And if you're over here peeling potatoes or washing your produce or chopping things up, you might not notice as quickly as you want to that your food is overcooking or maybe burning or something's happening that your eyes aren't on because you're over here doing something else. Or it's getting like really broken down and mushy because you let it on far longer than you expected because you're over here picking apart your herbs. So this is really the concept of you prep everything ahead of time. You clean your produce, you chop everything, you crack your eggs, you shred what you need to shred, you peel what you need to peel, and you process all of those things, especially herbs and spices. Something that I like to do after I get home from the grocery store, as I'm putting everything up, is I set aside my herbs and I go ahead and I clean and process them then. You can wrap them in a damp paper towel and put them in your refrigerator, and it preserves their freshness. And that way, whenever you go and cook with your herbs, your fresh herbs, you don't have to worry about like picking everything off and cleaning them and process. Like it's done already in the container. Makes it really convenient. So yeah, you just like get everything ready. You make what you can ahead of time. So we talked about rice, especially or other starches like lentils and quinoa last week. Make these ahead of time so you can just dump them into whatever you're making, and you're not having to make something over here, make your sauce and make your quinoa and make your vegetables. Like you can make sauces and your starches, carbs ahead of time, put them in the refrigerator, put them in the freezer, and just pull them out when you need them. It's like makes it really fast and easy. And so basically you just measure all your wet and dry ingredients and you put them in their own containers. I will take this opportunity to remind you that wet measuring cups are different than dry measuring cups. So a liquid is usually, a glass Pyrex type. It has a spout, it has a handle usually, and then that's for liquid, and it measures differently than your dry. So your dry is going to be like your scoop, your scoop type. When you're measuring out things like flour, you want to make sure it's like nice and fluffy and aerated, because if you like compact down your flour into your cup, you're actually adding more flour than you need, and then it's really thick and sometimes grainy. So 2 tips: your liquids should not be measured in the same measuring cup as your dries, and your dry should not be packed down into your measuring cup. They actually need to be pretty loose and sifted. Okay, scrap bowl. So Rachel Ray has done this for like 2 decades on her cooking show, where she takes like a scrap bowl. It's just like a big bowl. And rather than like cracking an egg and walking over to the trash can, or like peeling everything and putting it in the trash can, or taking apart your packaging and going to the trash can, you have a bowl that you're like, okay, like the ends of my vegetables, the packaging, the peels, the shells, just like the garbage goes into a bowl right there on your counter. I've done this, and I'm telling you, it saves so much time that you don't have to walk over to the trash can every time you have to throw something away. And it keeps like a nice, clean, tidy space for you, so you don't have a bunch of trash everywhere. And then another tip is, if you are cleaning vegetables or fruit, that colander that you use to clean them and rinse them off with, you can use that as your scrap or garbage bowl. And then when you're done, you dump it into the trash can. It makes it really easy. Okay, so there's something out there called the Dirty Dozen, and it changes kind of depending on the harvest, but you see the same culprits every year. Okay, so I know like organic is obviously more expensive than traditional conventional produce. If you were to be selective about what you buy organic, this is the list that you should probably focus on buying organic, because there's like extra pesticides associated with this list. So strawberries, spinach, kale, all your greens, nectarines, apples, grapes, cherries, peaches, pears, peppers, celery, and tomatoes. Those are known as the dirty dozen. They are extra processed with pesticides and other chemicals. And when you buy organic, you remove that. So this is called a dirty dozen because they're extra dirty. They can be extra harmful to you, especially if you don't clean them thoroughly. So if you were to buy organic, this is the list to focus on. And then you can skip organic for the clean 15. So this is going to be your avocado, sweet corn, pineapples, onions, papayas, sweet peas, eggplants, asparagus. Casey said she really likes broccoli. So broccoli's on the list. Cabbage, kiwi, cauliflower, mushrooms, melon, cantaloupe. You don't need to buy organic. They typically have lower levels of pesticides, and you can buy them conventional produce. Still clean them, right? Still clean them, but they're not as harmful to you as, say, like the strawberries and other berries and things like that that might be really covered in pesticides and bad chemicals that you don't want to put in your body. Okay, either way, you need to wash your produce. Okay, I knew a guy that I worked with. He got himself sick for days. He gave himself food poisoning because he did not wash an apple. He just like ate an apple. He may have even rinsed it off, but not really well. He ate the apple. He got really sick. It's really important that you wash your produce. Okay, especially, I mean, think about now, like even with COVID, it's flu season. I mean, who knows? People touch and they're transmitting bacteria everywhere. The pesticides that are on there. You can watch a video on like what an apple before and after it's washed. I mean, it's gross, you guys. It's gross. So wash your produce. The good news is that the FDA says that you do not have to use soap. You do not have to use like a vegetable wash. You can buy those things. You can buy a veggie and a fruit wash to like rinse out your vegetables. You can also use vinegar. There's a lot of people I know that use vinegar. I caution, so vinegar is great. It will kill the bacteria. You can rinse it off with water. It will get rid of the pesticides. But really delicate produce like a blackberry, strawberry, raspberries, the berries, they're really porous. And so if you rinse them off with vinegar or soak them in vinegar, then they tend to be very sour. So they're really susceptible to that. So be careful what you rinse off with vinegar. It's also important that before you peel, let's say a potato, you clean the potato. Because if you peel your potato before it's been cleaned, and you can scrub it with some warm water, scrub it off with a brush, and then peel it. Because if you don't, you will transfer the bacteria, the dirt, whatever, onto your peeler. And then your peeler is just continuing to transmit that to the inside of your vegetable that you're about to eat. So anything that's really firm, melons, cucumbers, potatoes, zucchini, go ahead and scrub it. Scrub it with a brush, rinse it off with really good water. This is the recommendation from the FDA. And then just dry it off really good. Dry it off with like a clean cloth or a paper towel or something to get the any bacteria that might be still on there. And then also like Brussels sprouts, lettuce, cabbage, just remove those outer layers of the leaf. And then you can like chop and process the rest. So on a Brussels sprout, you're probably going to remove like two leaves, cabbage, maybe up to 4 leaves, but you're just trying to like peel off the outer exposed layer. Okay, brine your meat. So brining is really just soaking it in some salt water. You can do this with eggplant too. So if you like eggplant, I highly recommend putting some rock salt on your eggplant, getting all that bitterness out of there before you make like an eggplant parmesan. Chicken, you can make it really tender. And we talked about how chicken thighs are really like a really low cost meat. Chicken thighs especially are like really cheap, low cost from the grocery store. And you can make them even more tender by soaking them in a brine, which is really just salt water. So what you want to do is combine 1 tablespoon of salt, the rock salt, not the really fine stuff. So get the rock salt with 1 cup of water. Completely submerge your meat. Like make sure it's covered. Soak it, put it in the refrigerator. Do not leave it out on your counter. A few hours is fine. Overnight is fine. And it just makes it like much more tender. Same with beef, same with pork. Use a brine and it makes it just like really nice and tender and juicier, even if it's a lower quality meat. And then of course, if you're going to store it in your refrigerator overnight, put a lid on it so it's not absorbing the other flavors that are in your refrigerator. And here's a tip, keep the scraps. So olives, pickles, ginger, vinaigrette, so anything that's like soaked in a brine or some sort of juice, you can keep that and then use it later for soup sauces, salad vinaigrettes, marinades. Like you don't just need to toss it away. You could like use it for something else. Citrus. So I like to keep my orange peels and put them down my garbage disposal. It makes it smell really nice and it freshens it up. You can also put it on the stove top with some water, some cinnamon, some cloves, some, you know, citrus peels, like some orange peels, lemon, lime, whatever. Put it in the water on top of your stove. It makes it smell like amazing in your house. What Williams Sonoma does. You can also use coffee grinds, eggshells, and banana peels for compost. So if you have any plants, maybe you're ambitious and you have a garden, but even if you just have a house plant, you could put these things down in your soil, not too much, that you can repurpose, and it has like really good nutrients, a lot of nitrogen in there that will help your plants grow and be super healthy. And then if you have like scraps from like cutting your vegetables, or if you have meat bones, you made food on the crock pot, you've had like a roast in the oven, whatever, save your bones, save your vegetable scraps, and you can make like a really nice stock for your soup. And we also talked about last week how you can use your stock for your like your rice and quinoa and things like that instead of water. Just adds like a lot more flavor. And then a classic, you can save your bacon grease to cook with in the future. You can saute with bacon grease and it's like really yummy and delicious. Okay, here's a few miscellaneous things for the last tips of the night. When you are Googling a recipe, get more than one and just kind of like read through 2 or 3, 5 and kind of get like an average. Because if you stick with one, you know, you might not get like a full spectrum of tips. But if you get 2 or 3, 5 perspectives, then you can like maybe pick up on an ingredient or a different cooking method or a different temperature. And so try to like average out between like all the reviews that are out there. And then of course, if you get confident, you can modify with what you have in your pantry or just how you see fit. Also, treat temperature like it's an ingredient. It's not subjective. If it says to cook at 425, cook at 425. It says 350 for 20 minutes. Stick to 350 for 20 minutes. If it's on a medium heat on your stove, like you'll get to know your stove and your utensils, but don't mess around with that. Like you can't like double a cookie recipe and then like put it on 450 instead of 350 and expect it to be done in 10 minutes. Like that's not how it works. You need to stick with that temperature for that time, especially with baking, but really all things, like stick to that temperature. And then as you get to know your appliance and your cooking supplies, then you can adjust. And then, you know, I've burned myself a couple of times by grabbing a hot candle, put an oven mitt or a towel over it just to remind yourself like, hey, I took this out of the oven and it's like 350 degrees. So that way you won't just grab a handle the next time that you go and reach for that food. So that's what I got. That's the tips of the night.
Thanks, Lindsay. I learned a lot. I've never heard of brine. What's it called? Putting your meat in brine, brining your
Yeah.
meat. Okay, that's super interesting. I'm actually going to be cooking tonight. And I'm going to do that.
Awesome.
Is it now it's the purpose of that is to kind of tenderize the meat, right?
Right.
Okay. Because you're not supposed to be like rinsing off your meat when you get out of the package, right?
Don't do that.
Okay. I didn't think so. Okay.
But always salt it. Always salt it. You can pat it dry. So if anything, if you want to get like a good sear on a meat, pat it dry and then like sprinkle it with salt and pepper.
Man, that's really cool. And I had never heard about the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. That's amazing. That's cool. Well, I know I learned a lot. I think we have one that is watching. Attendance is kind of low. And I don't see any questions right now. Regina, if you're tuning in, if you can think of any, go ahead and put them in the chat. And we can chat about them and answer them. So this is really cool, Lindsay. I was trying to think of what else I was going to ask you about. Do you know the reason why they put more pesticides and more chemicals on some produce and not on others? Do you know why?
Yeah, I mean, it's just to keep the bugs away. So I would think like strawberries, for example, it's really high on the list, right? So they're super sweet, very attractive to bugs. And so to keep the bugs and pests and deer, rabbits, when you think about like all the things that want to eat the strawberries, it just kind of keeps them away.
Yeah, actually, as I finished the question, I was like, all of the things that were the Dirty Dozen were like the sweeter things. And those are the things that probably get nibbled on by bugs and such. So
and your greens. So bugs love greens too. So yeah, your sweet fruits and your greens, but then also the Clean 15, a lot of those have like a shell or like a protective layer. So that's to keep in mind too, of like they've got that extra protection. You don't need the pesticide.
Gotcha. Super interesting. Well, I'm not seeing any activity, so it might be that we're able to wrap up. Any closing thoughts, Lindsay?
No.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'm thoroughly enjoying this cooking and eating series. I think this is awesome.
As long as you're not hungry, right?
Right. I had a snack before this time, so I wouldn't be too tempted to eat during. But we had an in-person class day that went super well. So I want to again, I know we're live right now, but Lindsay, I'm gonna think about maybe trying to, since you guys are going to be remote broadcasting, still using Zoom, but like me and the youth could be in person present and then interact with you guys. I still think that is something that's really worth doing. So I'll keep you posted on that. Because that could be, I know we've chatted about that a little bit. So I'm hoping to rethink that, because that's going to help boost attendance. I've had some youth say, I feel like I'd like it more if we could all watch it together. So I love their ideas. They're good ones. So just something to keep in mind. And for you guys tuning in as well, if you would rather, all meet in person in the classroom at the OC, and then we tune in together, let me know if that's something you'd be interested in doing, as opposed to doing it on our own at our own homes. So, well, thank you, Lindsay. That was awesome. I do not have anything else for the night, so I can go ahead and close this out. You guys be safe, and we will catch you next week live at 5. Bye, everyone.